Hello and welcome to the Daily Fantasy Whiff. I'm Big Italy 42 here talking about some fades and stacks, which games I'll be stacking, which games I'll be avoiding with hitters, which means I'll be playing the pitchers, at least in some format. So let me give you the rundown game by game here. Starting at the top, Miami at Washington. This one's expected to be a blowout. We got Jordan Zimmermann versus Tom Kohler. Washington with a nice 4.5 run team total, minus 240 favorite for Zimmermann, 7.5 run total, like I said. Just a 3-run team total for Miami. Certainly not stacking Miami. I mean, at this point, if you're stacking Miami, it's really just to be contrarian. And even if they do hit, usually don't put up a ton of runs. So for me, I'll be stacking all over the Washington side. You got your guys like Anthony Rendon has been hitting well. Ryan Zimmerman, Jason Worth finally starting to get it going. Ian Desmond homer the other day too. You've got plenty of options here. So full stack here for me on FanDuel or on DraftKings. Like I said, Miami, not a side that I'll be touching. I actually like Zimmerman quite a bit as a cash game option. I don't love him in GPPs. He has a fair price tag, but he just doesn't have a ton of upside. I do expect quality start, win, kind of like Vegas does, of course, but that's about it for him. I'm not expecting a dominant performance from him. Next game up, Colorado at Pittsburgh. J.A. Happ hosting Chris Rusin. And Happ, one of those monster favorites, actually biggest favorite on the day, minus 260, 7.5 run total here. We saw Liriano have some issues with this Colorado team last night. This is still a team that's awful against left-handed pitching. Happ's only allowed 1 earned run in his last 3 starts. Not a guy that pitches particularly deep in the games. Usually gives you 5 to 6 quality innings. That's all you really need, especially at his price on FanDuel, $6,900. He's 77 on DraftKings, which is a fine price there as well. So for me, I like his side of it. I likely will not be stacking against him. There are some guys on Colorado, like Nolan Arenado, that do hit lefties fairly well, but for the most part, not really a stack for me on the Colorado side because Happ has been pretty good. Although you do imagine he'll be a pretty popular pitcher, so if you wanted to throw in some guys, some power hitters here as a mini stack, I wouldn't mind that, but not going full-blown stack here. But on the Pirates side, as you would anticipate with this big of a line, they are a huge favorites, and 4.5 run team total for them too. So load up your Pittsburgh bats. They've been hot. Make sure you start that with Andrew McCutchen. He's right around 5K on both sites, so not that bad of a price tag for as good as he's been. Other guys, Starling Marte, Jung Ho Kang, Aramis Ramirez, all these guys killing left-handers. Guys I'd probably be leaving out. Pedro Alvarez did homer off a lefty a couple days ago, but he's awful against lefties. Neil Walker, much worse from the right side of the plate than left side, so maybe instead of those guys, I'd throw in a guy like Francisco Cervelli instead. Josh Harrison, if he's in the lineup, I like him. And Gregory Polanco may go under-owned as a lefty-lefty matchup, but the guy's been hitting everyone, so I like him a great deal also. Next up, San Diego at Philadelphia. This one's Adam Morgan against Colin Ray. Obviously not a whole lot to see here as far as pitchers go. 8-run total, minus 120 favorite on the road for Colin Ray. For me, this is a San Diego offense that's been struggling, a Philadelphia offense that's not very good. So for me, this is going to be a fun game to stack both sides because you can do it for very cheap. We saw some GPP winning lineups last night on FanDuel that had a Philadelphia stack with a Yankee stack. So if there's a more expensive stack you like a Pirate stack, I don't mind sticking either one of these in there. I'm not a fan of either pitcher. Colin Ray hasn't been terrible, but got roughed up a little bit in his last start. Neither guy with much upside. So for me, I don't mind stacking both sides. I slightly prefer Padres, but this is an interesting one where you can go ahead and stack both sides. Get creative with it, especially on FanDuel, where you can only stack 4 and 4. You got to have one of each position, things like that. Or if you don't find a fourth batter you like, maybe stick in a guy like Brian McCann that you really like because neither catcher from either side of here really sparking a ton of interest. Cameron Rupp has been hitting very well recently. Derek Norris has not. So you can go the 4x4 stack, maybe go 3x3 with 2 Yankees, 2 Pirates, 1 of each, something like that. Mix in some of these other guys. But certainly with the 8-run total and 2 mediocre pitchers on the mound, this is a game you could stack both sides of. Cincinnati at Milwaukee, Matt Garza versus Kevius Sampson here. Obviously, we know Garza not quite the pitcher that he once was. Kevius Sampson, we don't really know the pitcher that he is yet, but he has struggled big time with lefties so far. 8.5 run total, one of the biggest ones on the night. In fact, looks like the biggest one on the night slate outside of Baltimore and Texas. So this is certainly a game that you want to be targeting both sides of, really. The Reds have really been struggling on offense, but Milwaukee has as well. So I'd be using caution. It is an 11-game slate. I don't know about full-blown stacks on these. If you're making, 20, 30 lineups, obviously both sides viable. I would slightly prefer the red side just because you got better, more proven hitters. You got Joey Votto, you got Jay Bruce, some guys that are struggling, though. So this is one of those ones where, you don't mind mixing and matching here, maybe a couple mini stacks, but it is an 8.5 run total. So for me, I'm not getting too creative with these. It's going to be top 1 through 5 type of guys in this order. The bottom of these two orders is just not very good right now. So at that point, you're really just reaching, hoping one of these guys goes off. But 6 through 9 with these guys, just not very good right now. So I'll be stacking the top halves of this one. Angels at the Indians, Corey Kluber, Garrett Richards. This one is the one game where you have two very good pitchers on the mound. While Kluber very good, I'll say Garrett Richards good. Maybe inconsistent, but he's still a good pitcher in my mind. And for that reason, 7.5 run total this game in Cleveland. I'm really not targeting either side of offenses. I mean, you got guys like Kipnis, Brantley, been on fire recently, but I mean, you don't love it. You got Pujols and Trout struggling on the other side, and it's Corey Kluber. So for me, this is an avoid. This is play Corey Kluber as much as you can, throw Richards into some GPPs, but I won't be stacking either side of this one. Houston at Minnesota, Mike Fiers, Mike Pelfrey. Fiers obviously coming off of that no-hitter in his last performance. Got an extra day off. He swapped out with Scott Kazmir yesterday, so this is a game with an 8-run total. Fiers minus 134 favorite. This is a Minnesota team that's been dreadful recently. Miguel Sano now day-to-day. Maybe he doesn't play. If he doesn't, that's a big hit for their offense. Fiers has been pretty good recently, too. So for me, I'll stack the Houston side here. Houston's got a 4-run team total. Minnesota just 3.5. So Houston side, but they're also potentially missing a big bat in Carlos Correa, too. So it's another option where you could get some cheap stacks from either side, maybe a couple mini stacks, pair them with your favorite stack, go 2x2x4, something like that, or on DraftKings, use some of these guys as fillers for your more expensive stacks, especially if you're paying up for pitching. You don't love either side, like I said, and quite possibly missing the best bat from both teams here. So going to be an interesting one. I do like Mike Fiers a little bit here, but I'm not touching Mike Pelfrey. He's just not a very good pitcher at this point. Yankees at Atlanta. This one, Matt Whistler versus Luis Severino. And Severino is $5,300 on FanDuel, $10,400 on DraftKings. So you do the math there. He is an elite play on FanDuel. He's a GBP play only on DraftKings with that near double salary. But the Yankees, once again, monster total, 4.5 runs. And Matt Whistler has been horrible against left-handed batters. 464 WOBA. In just 29 and third innings, saw 19 earned runs, 9 home runs, 12 strikeouts, 17 walks. This is just a phenomenal spot for all these Yankees lefties. So starting off with Brian McCann, you assume Greg Bird will be in instead of Mark Teixeira at first, so even better value for you there. Stephen Drew is a punt at second. Chase Headley at third base. You can certainly throw in Alex Rodriguez right there, but Headley obviously a switch hitter, going to be hitting lefty. Didi Gregorius, 2 big games in a row. Beltran, Ellsbury, Gardner. I mean, we could see all lefties straight down this lineup tonight, and that is not a good thing for Mr. Whistler tonight. So Yankees, especially coming off a 15-run outburst, going to be popular tonight, rightfully so. And I'll be having a ton of them, mixing and matching them with just about every team. And on the other side, Severino's been good. I mean, he hasn't been dominant, but he's been very good. And really his biggest weakness has been walks, not giving up a lot of hits. And this is a terrible offense. You can throw Freddie Freeman as a single bullet, but I'm not stacking this terrible offense tonight. Hisashi Iwakuma versus Jeff Samardzija. Seattle at the White Sox, obviously. Good venue for hitting at U.S. Cellular Field. So both sides of this one can be considered, of course, on tonight's 11-game slate. Neither one is one that really stands out to most people, but I am a big fan of the Seattle side on this one. Jeff Samardzija has not been good recently. Just a 7.5 run total. Iwakuma was great for 3+ starts and then just got rocked in the 5th inning against Oakland last time out. I have more faith in him than that. I think he's in a fine spot today. I do like maybe some mini stacks from Seattle, from the White Sox. You get your Eaton, Cabrera, your Jose Abreu. Not in love with really anyone else from that team, but on the Seattle side, I like it all. I mean, I like Trumbo. If Franklin Gutierrez faces a righty today, you got to love him with the hot streak he's rolling on. You got Logan Morrison in a fine spot as a lefty here against the righty. You got Seager and Cano in the infield. I mean, I absolutely love this. Seattle's probably my favorite team that I think will be under-owned tonight as far as the stack. They do only have a 3.5 run total, but I fully expect them to hit more than that tonight. So that's my under-the-radar stack of the night. Loving them. Baltimore at Texas. You know that second part of that sentence, at Texas, tells you all you need to know. You're going to want to get some pieces of this game here. Ubaldo Jimenez versus Martin Perez. Vegas agrees. We have a 4.5 run total for Baltimore. Texas with a 4 run total. Ubaldo Jimenez has not been very good recently. Hasn't made it through the 6th inning in 4 of his last 5 starts. He's overpriced, I think, as well. Just not a very good guy to be targeting. I like both sides of this one. You got Adam Jones, fortunately, in the lineup against a lefty. Returned last night. We thought he might actually miss some time after hitting the wall a couple days ago. But you got some under-owned guys like Steve Pearce. Chris Davis has actually been hitting lefties pretty well. You got Jonathan Scope as a decent option there. Manny Machado. Then you look on the other side on Texas, and you got a ton of guys here. Prince Fielder has not been good recently, but you target him. If Ruggiero Door's back, I love him tonight. Adrian Beltre. Even Elvis Andrus has been hitting pretty well. He's one of those guys that always kind of seems overpriced because he's not a power hitter, but I'll throw him into some stacks tonight. Delino DeShields has been an on-base machine recently, so you got to like him. And Shin-Soo Choo, other guys, Mitch Moreland. I mean, everybody in play for this one for me, so I'll be looking at both sides. That's going to be a really fun game to stack. Oakland at Arizona. Aaron Brooks, not the point guard from the Chicago Bulls, but he is the pitcher for the Oakland Athletics, facing off against Arizona in the desert. Ulysses Chassin for Arizona, and I really love both sides of this one as well. I mean, you look at the total here. In the desert, it's a nice, juicy one. 9 runs, minus 140 favorite for Chassin tonight. And this one, it looks like Felix Doubront was originally slated to start, but Brooks has been put in for him. So if you had Doubront, make sure you get him out. Not that you were playing him anyway, but now you're facing a righty instead of a lefty, so that does change some things. I love the Arizona bats. They've been hitting great pitching. I expect them to crush Aaron Brooks tonight. Goldschmidt, Pollock, Peralta, all these guys that play Inciarte as a speed guy at the top of the order. Got to like him. Even Jacob Lamb. He's one of those guys I always talk about. I don't particularly like him as a hitter, but Aaron Brooks has just not been a very good pitcher. And then on the other side of this one, you get the Oakland guys against a righty. This is an Oakland offense that has been horrible, but get your guys like Stephen Vogt, Billy Butler, Josh Reddick, Danny Valencia. Brett Laurie has been smashing the ball. This is going to be an under-owned stack in the desert, I would imagine, especially on an 11-game slate. So another one of those under-the-radar ones that I'll be targeting that I don't think a lot of people will be on. So get yourself some Oakland Athletics bats as well. Chicago Cubs at the Los Angeles Dodgers is our final game on the slate. John Lester against Matt Latos. Obviously, John Lester, one of the better pitchers in all of baseball. And a 7-run total here. This one essentially a pick 'em. Obviously, the Dodgers, being at home, they don't quite have the pitcher that they're accustomed to having with all these great pitchers they throw out there. Matt Latos, an okay pitcher, hasn't pitched particularly well recently, but certainly this one is going to be an interesting way to target because you've got Matt Latos, who has struggled with left-handed bats, a lot of really good left-handed bats for the Cubs. So if I'm stacking that side, it's going to be the lefty bats. And switch hitters, you got Dexter Fowler, Anthony Rizzo, Chris Coghlan. Still going to throw Chris Bryant in there in the righty-righty matchup. The guy's been locked in. I like that side. I'm really not targeting any of these Los Angeles bats. You could target Scott Van Slyke in a tournament if you wanted, but really not a route I'll be taking. I certainly will not be stacking that side. So hopefully helped you out with a little bit with some odds, some team totals, some guys to target here. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.